Hello friends, welcome back. In this video, you'll master Azure App Service settings focusing on TLS, API connections, API settings to enhance your application security and functionality. So come, let's get started. This video is part of AZ204 certification series videos, and in this video we'll be focusing on particular part. If you come to this website, where if you click on the study guide, and we are focusing on each one of the topic which is covered in AZ204. So we already covered these things, and in this video we are covering this one. Alright, so for that I'm going to show you the live demo. So those who are new, if you go to github.com/learnsmartcoding, go to repository, search for mentor by Karthik, and you'll find the source code here. And that's the source code which I've opened it here. So basically, if you wanted to understand how these things works in the Azure App Service, this API, if you look at the app settings of JSON, we have something called development and production. These two represents separate environment. By default, only these two will come, but actually speaking, in organization you will have more environments like the QA, staging, or also called as UAT, and then there's something called production, or sometimes more than that environments. Now let's understand some basic stuff. So when you open this kind of a project and run it, what happens is, if you go to properties, launch settings, okay, so the launch settings will have these profiles. Look at this. These are the profiles. So HTTP is the profile, HTTPS is the profile, and there is something called environmental variable. Here the environmental variable by default is development. So what happens is so what happens is this one and this one get merged, and that is will be your final JSON. So for example, if you have something here and then if you have something here, this will override. That is what I meant. So these two will be merged. Now if you look at the production, okay, when we deploy to production, this will be used. So how it will know that it has to use production? Like I said, the ASP.NET Core environment will be declared as production, which we are going to see. Now here's the thing. For production or for any other environment, if you look at this, every single value is empty. Generally speaking, in organization, you will never find any of these values hard-coded here. They all will be either deployed using CI/CD pipeline or some script, or it is pre-configured in the environment, which is what you need to know from a Azure developer perspective. Now, if you have these values here, yes, if you go deploy it, it will take it here. It will take it from here, okay? But if you don't have it, it will look for a similar property in the configuration, and it will take that value. That is what we are going to see. Now, what we will do, I have opened up my API project. Okay, so you're on the overview, and this is the API, okay? And to your left side, if you come under settings, there are two important things: configuration and environmental variable. So let's take a look at these two. If I click on configuration, it is going to show what this web API is configured about. For example, it will show you all of these basic things, right? For example, if you go to this error pages, like we don't need to see all of those things. If you look at down, all of these things are configuration, right? You can change this. Which stack and all of those things, like you can change to .NET, and then it'll ask you what kind of version is this. Ours is 9, okay, so like that, okay. So we don't need this, but basically ideally these things will be there. But if you go to environmental variable, so when I go to this app, there are two things: app settings and connection string. So let's see what these two are. App settings means anything here other than this. There's something called connection string, right? Connection string is the section under which you have something here. So anything else other than this connection string will be app settings. Under connection string, if you have to write something here, for example, I wanted to have this, then come here, click on add, like this, and then you can give some value. You can choose what it is and say apply. You can apply this and that's it. It will work. So it's updating the connection string, so it's set. So what does it mean? I don't have this, but if I deploy this app, it will take the connection string from there. We don't need to mention it here. Similarly, you need to do all of these things. Okay, for example, if it was a direct like this, let's say if it was direct like this, if it is like this, then if you wanted to update this as a value, go to app settings and you can click on add and you can give some value and say apply. Okay, so we don't need this. But what if we have to update like this, for example, like this hierarchy? So if you have a hierarchy like this, say let's say Azure functions, so I say copy Azure functions. I'll just show you how it works. Azure functions double underscore followed by this property. So that will be the name of the actual variable. So if you come here, see double underscore this one and then some value. For example, the value was this one, right? So I come here, update this value, apply. See, it's added now. Similarly, if you have to add all of these values, how this will be? So the value will be like this. Look at this, Azure AD underscore underscore instant name followed by the value. So for the whole settings, this is how it look. This one followed by double underscore, the next property name, because read is an array. We are saying array's first value was this, array's second value was this. For array's right on the first one is this. So this is how the value was going to be. Alright, so this is very important. This is how you need to configure it. So now in this whole concept, we talked about only API settings, right? We have talked about only API settings. Now let's understand about this one, configuring transport layer security, which is the TLS, and then I will talk about the service connection. Now if you go to any website, okay, for example, even if you go to this website, right, by default you see this, it's called HTTPS. So this is the protocol, hypertext transfer protocol, and followed by S. S means secured. Whenever you see HTTPS, the communication between this site and the backend is encrypted with 128-bit encryption. The data that is sent via wire is encrypted. Alright, and not only that, this has some version, a TLS version from 1.2, 2. and 3. Okay, each defines its granularity of the security. The lower version, the much lower, is these days are not supported because they are vulnerable to so many attacks. So you can set all of those things. So that is what we are going to talk about now. Now if you go to this same web app that we are referring, if you go to this configuration under the settings and go to general settings and scroll down slowly, you'll see what I'm talking about. There is something called HTTPS only. If I say off, the web API that we are referring here can also be accessed via HTTP, but that's not correct. This is the right way of using. HTTP is like not a real one, but what it is saying is if you on it and if you try to go via HTTP followed by the endpoint, it will forcefully redirect to HTTPS, which is good. And we were also referring about the TLS version. If you look at this, it starts with 1.0, 1.2, 1.3. 1.3 is the latest. Minimum 1.2. We are saying the communication should be minimum 1.2 version, because 1.2 version has fixes for other issues that are in the lower version. Okay, so those kind of things can be set up here. Okay, so that's called end-to-end encryption and how things are working. Alright, and there are other things here like HTTP version, HTTP proxy, all of those things. So basically we are talking about this TLS. I will give you some more description about what TLS and other stuff. And when we go to this this and then I will also cover something related to the configuration of a domain and other stuff, which is also there in the channel, but either I'll give you the link or I'll cover the new as a new video. But after this, so we talked about this now service connection. If you go to my channel and search with manage identity, so this is the first video and there is another video here. So these two video I'm gonna link it and giving you as a one full video when we finish this topic. But in order to cover the service connection, I will tell you at a high level. Okay, so what we are referring is this resource, this web API. Let's go to this one. So this web API can access some or one or more resources within Azure. For example, Key Vault. Another example is SQL Server. Okay, so every single things are called resources, but it is going to access those things. How it will access? Without credential, how this API, this project, this application can access those things. That's where called identity management, and there is something called system identity, user defined identity. Okay, so you need to know about those things, which is covered in detail in those two videos. Okay, if you go to access management, so if you go to the left side and scroll down under settings, there's something called identity. So identity means like this resource has its own identity, like it will tell you who it is. That's called system identity. That is what I would have explained it in that video. But if you switch it on and save it, what it is going to do is it is going to create a unique identifier, which is this one. All right, now you can go to those resources like Key Vault and other places. You can find out who this guy is, who this service is, and you can assign some specific access. So that way this application, like this resource, can talk to another resource because the other resource knows who he is and gives access. And that is very important from a developer perspective. So you have to look at this video and this video, which will be covered as part of the whole video. So you need to look at this video and this video, and I'm going to cover those two videos as part of this video itself. Very important, so you need to take a look at that. And you also have something called user assigned identity, which means you create an identity, give some permission, and assign that identity over here. Like you can add those identity here. Okay, so those kind of things, everything is covered in this one. Okay, now coming back to this video, so we covered about the API settings, why it is important, how you can configure the application's API settings over the Azure Web App. We talked about the TLS, and for service connection I already have those two videos, so let's not repeat. I will include those two in this video itself. You can take a look at that. So to wrap up, we have covered the essential of Azure App Service settings for TLS, API connections, service connections, and then that will ensure your applications are secure and efficient.
Thanks for watching.
If you found
this video helpful, please
consider
give it a thumbs
checking
up
out my
and
other
subscribe to our
videos
channel
on Azure
for
best
more
practices,
tech tutorials.
and don't forget to
hit the bell icon to get
below.
notified when we
If you're not
post new
subscribed,
videos.
subscribe to.
If you have any
Stay
questions or
tuned, and I'll see you in the
suggestions,
next
leave
video.
them in the comments
Bye-bye.
below. Happy coding!